Hello, and welcome to the Ask the Industry podcast, episode 20. For those of you new to the show, this is the podcast where I interview the most influential people from the world of stand-up, comedy, TV, radio, and today, performance. Joe Lycett, for those of you who don't know, is a British-based comedian who started comedy about 5 or 6 years ago. He has since gone on and managed to get himself management, and we talk about that. He's also won quite a lot of comedy competitions and come very close to winning a lot more. And we talk about the merits of comedy competitions for newer acts, which ones actually did him some favours and which ones did not help him in any way, shape or form, as well as which ones hindered him a little bit. We talk about finding the right management and finding the right team around you to make your comedy and your career progress. We also talk about how his management has impacted his comedy and steered him in a direction that makes him more marketable and, as a result, more profitable. It's a really detailed interview and I'm really proud of it. I think we get quite a lot of genuinely good insights from him. He's obviously got his head screwed on with the business side and the marketing side of being a comedian as well. So it's really fun to talk to him. We get really nerdy, geeky, whatever you want to call it, about how he thinks that there's sort of a several prong attack for promoting shows. I won't go into too much detail on that. I'll let him do that in the podcast. We also cover some really interesting stuff, like the big questions that a lot of comedians a few years in, including myself, ask. For example, can you make a living as a jobbing comedian alone? Like, as in just performing gigs, not doing writing for TV, not going on radio shows, not writing for different comedians. Can you just make a living as a performing comedian? And at his level as well, he's sort of known in terms of profile, as in he's done some TV spots and he's got some more coming up, but we're talking someone who is, like I said, a few years in and is still sort of developing this voice, and as he talks about, is still trying to find what that is for him and the character that he sees Joe Lycett as on stage, which was a really interesting revelation for me because I didn't see him as a character. I saw him just as himself, but it was very interesting to hear his take on how he feels his material and therefore his character has had to evolve. I would just like to take a moment and thank everyone for their support in this podcast before I hit play on the interview. It seriously means a lot to me. We've just passed 25,000 downloads, which is more than I thought I was ever going to get on this. I genuinely did not think people were going to take to it so well and be so receptive to it and love hearing this side of the industry. So I would just like to thank you all for all the shares and all the kind comments and all the emails and just everything that you've sent to me that's been positive. Thank you so much. Please keep doing it. Please keep sharing the links. Please keep telling more people about it. Please keep these discussions going as well. I don't want the podcast, anything that comes up in the podcast, to be the end of the discussion. I want them to be the spark of discussion around marketing, media, being an independent comedian, being a jobbing comedian, and being someone who is in the industry for a long-term thing. So if you just please keep it going. It means a lot when I bump into people at gigs and they're really receptive and happy and excited to see me. And also, like, if you want to donate when you see me at a gig, don't feel like you can't do that. Some people have done that recently because they don't have a PayPal account and they don't want to do it that way. Perfectly happy for you to give me the money in person, and I will it'll go into the podcast. It's not like I'm just pocketing the money, and that'd be great. I would just like to also point out that the Patreon is still running, and I'd like to really quickly do a shout out to my 5 patrons: Mike Sheldon, Ben Jennings, Richard Browning, Roland Hamilton, and UFID Studios, which is alias Robert Cummings. Thank you so much, guys, for supporting me. You're helping me get to the first target for this. At the moment, I'm getting sort of $29 an episode of the podcast. I really want to get that up to 50. So if you think you can become a patron and you want to hear your name being shouted out before it gets too many people and I can't do it, please do take part. Be really helpful and I really appreciate it. Even if you can't, by the way, some people have emailed me recently saying, oh, hey, I haven't got enough money right now, I can't donate. Don't donate if you can't afford it. It's not a problem. These are free. I haven't got a problem with that. But if you can afford it, and if you've got like a $5, or you can afford, $1, $2, $3, $4, $5 on Patreon per episode, please do join it, because don't think your donation is too small, is what I'm saying. Someone came across to me at a gig in Brighton when I was doing my gig in Brighton a few days ago, and they gave me a couple of quid, and they said, I'm sorry, it's all I've got, but I really enjoy what you do. I'm not upset by that. Do not feel bad about that at all. Equally, if you have more than that, don't do that as well. I got one through for £20 the other day, and they said, "Oh, I'm really sorry, it couldn't be more." Again, don't be sorry. To me, it means the world that you're even doing it. So please do keep those coming in. It's really helpful and it's really, really supportive. I genuinely can't thank you enough. But of course, if you can't do an ongoing donation, the PayPal button is on the website. Go there, as is the show notes. Seamless segue there. If you want to find out links to anything we talked about in this podcast, or any of the comedians that he spoke about, or any of his influences, all that good stuff is on the website, which you can find at simoncaine.co.uk/Ask the Industry Podcast, all one word, no gaps or whatever. And it's I've just renewed the website, so I'm hoping to get a designer on it to kind of make it a little bit more easy and friendly to navigate. Again, that's the kind of thing that the money goes into, because I want that to become like a big resource. I don't want it to become just some sort of static, oh look, the podcast has notes kind of thing. I want it to become something bigger than that. So do check it out. Do have a look at the website. Also, if you want to join the Facebook group, it's Ask the Industry Podcast on Facebook, and we're always having discussions in there and sharing interesting content around the same kind of subject as this podcast talks about. So feel free to join. Thank you very much for listening. Here, without any further delays, is Joe Lycett.
Well, if I did it in my stand-up, it was Stuart Lee, but it's actually I did it sometimes in the stand-up.
Start.
Okay, lovely. I do a character act. Well, I do a few character acts. I do one called John Roast, and he's billed as the greatest living comedian in the world. And his joke is essentially, he has a catchphrase which is "that's the roast," and all of his material ends with "that's the roast" or something that rhymes with roast. So he'll sort of say, "Oh, I was with my wife and we were driving along the in the car until there was no more land, and she said to me, 'John, where are we?' And I said, 'That's the coast.' And then it sort of goes on. She puts 2 slices of bread in the toaster, and she's like, 'John, what is this magical bread that I've made in the toaster?' I'm like, 'That's the toast.' And it's just really silly. Really, it's just a silly repeated joke, but it kind of works for some reason. And every time I do it, I'm baffled as to why people are laughing or finding any kind of humour in it, but they do. So I keep doing it. But the repeating things is something I find makes me laugh more than anyone else, I think.
Right. No, I know what you mean. Like if you have like a punchline that you keep saying over and over again.
Yeah, I don't do. This is the thing. I don't do in my actual stand-up as me or the character of Joe Lycett. I don't really do repetition. I do occasional callbacks, but I don't really do repetition. It just doesn't really fit with my style. But I do experiment with it, as obviously with the Always a Pleasure photographs and the 15-second interview. But I think once people know the gag, they're excited. They feel like they're part of a little team of people that know that joke, the Always a Pleasure thing, or the 15-second interview thing, which I'm hoping that will build. It's quite early stages at this point, so I think it creates a little cult almost. Yeah. Interesting.
When you say, sorry, before we move on to that, because that's really interesting. When you say the character Joe Lycett, do you mean you're not yourself, or?
Well, yeah. I mean, I am myself, more myself than anything else I do, I suppose. But it is definitely an exaggerated version of me. And actually, increasingly, I feel like the stand-up that I do is sort of veering away from what I am actually like in real life. Just because over the last couple of years, I've become quite straight and quite heterosexual, and sort of, I don't know, I think I have got more just testosterone in my system, and my stand-up doesn't really go alongside that. But I quite like that. I quite like that I sort of click into kind of camp mode on stage and can be a little bit more frivolous and dandy when I'm on stage. But yeah, it is kind of me, but increasingly not. But I'm not too worried about that.
Is that because like you're tied to material that you wrote like maybe 6 months ago because you've got a tour, or is
slightly? But actually, a lot of the newer stuff still comes from that. I think it's because I've forged a character on stage, and I go into a zone when I'm on stage, so the material naturally will sort of fall into that structure or that kind of that persona, that character. So naturally, the stuff I'm writing does become camp or delivered in a slightly fey way, which is not. I couldn't possibly function normally in the world if I was like I am in my stand-up. It just wouldn't. I wouldn't be able to sort of go to the shops and be as I am on stage. So it is definitely an exaggeration, a hyperbolic version of Joe Lycett.
When you said, because the thing is, you've got quite a social media following.
Well, yeah, quite is probably the term. Yeah,
I think that's fair, because like you're not. Is it Rob Delaney who's the one that's like?
Yeah, he's got getting on for millions now, hasn't he? Yes, at this point I've got about 38,000 followers on Twitter, which sounds like a lot, and also in comparison to a lot of stand-ups, it's nothing. But actually, any one given tweet that you put out probably only goes to 1,000 people, but that is still a massive amount of people for a joke about my cock and balls to be going to directly. It's still quite a lot of people, and obviously a retweet helps. They've now got a function on Twitter where you can see like the stats for each tweet, and it will show you how many people have read it or seen it. So that gives you a bit more of an idea. I don't quite know how they calculate that, but I gather that more people see it than you'd think. But that doesn't really mean anything, does it? It sort of just means that some people have seen it.
I work in social media, so I can tell you exactly how that's calculated if you want.
Please.
Essentially, for views, it's just done by impressions, so it's like a load.
Yeah.
So if someone's scrolling, they don't count that. They do count that. If they open it, then they count it as something completely separate, which is where it says expansions.
Yeah.
And if they embed it somewhere else, they do it every time the page loads. So that adds to it as well.
Okay.
So if you got sometimes I get
retweets will really help. With all
that'll help. But sometimes I get featured in Huffington Post Tweet of the Week, that thing.
Okay.
So that'll help with impressions.
Oh, wow. Yeah, of course.
But no one really does anything with them on there. They don't hit retweet on the Huffington Post.
No.
Or follow.
Yeah. Yeah, no, actually I didn't even think about how you can embed a tweet. Yeah, so occasionally mine pop up in there, but often mine aren't clever or interesting enough to end up anywhere other than ending in blockings normally. Fern Britton's blocked me on Twitter, which I clicked on her page the other week and the other day, and we've not met, but she sent me a really nice DM about 18 months ago saying, saw you at a charity gig, thought you were very good or something, and I was like over the moon that Fern Britton, because I loved like Phil and Fern on This Morning, and now she's blocked me, and I don't know why. So I imagine something I've done about probably some lazy tweet about my arseholes. Sort of, she's gone, no, I'm sick of this, and blocked me. I'm quite upset.
Well, I mean, Fern, if you're listening,
I imagine Fern is an avid listener of the podcast. I'm sorry, Fern, if you're listening. I didn't mean it. Maybe
she blocked you because you haven't listened to this. Maybe she was like,
because I've not listened to this podcast. That is, yeah.
You don't even know why I'm here.
Yeah. Get out of my house.
It's not even your house.
It's not even my house.
But yeah, I mean, because social media is such a big thing now for comedians in particular. I feel like everyone's trying to build like their own following on there. So do you find like the repeat jokes or the kind of ongoing in joke helps or hinders? Because I can imagine it turning people off as much as it turns people on. Yes, I think every time I do an Always a Pleasure, there will be somebody will go, it doesn't look like it's a pleasure, but that's normally it's normally somebody who's retweeted it and then somebody's seen it who's not seen the series before and just doesn't get the joke, and that's always going to happen. And then some people do just go, oh, this again. They're not into it as a running thing. Obviously that's going to happen with everything you do, but generally it's a sort of conversation starter with lots of people, and lots of people mention it to me, and when we've just done one now, it's something that people sort of want to be involved in, which I really like. And I think it's just such a simple thing that it's quite easy to do, and you can sort of see in the photos different ways that people have approached the same brief, and it's quite fun to see that in action, or particularly when you're scrolling through the blog. I think people really enjoy seeing how different sort of celebrities or different types of people go about it, and obviously some people are clearly more into it than others, but it's also become a really nice way of logging where I've been and what I've been up to, a nice sort of legitimate way of
taking photographs of fun people that I've been with and doing fun events or TV shows or whatever, and also a legitimate way of essentially being can I have a photo with a celebrity, but it's now an art project rather than just a desperate attempt to show off that I've met Kim Kardashian or whoever.
Well, I can imagine now it's that, but I can imagine when you started, who was the first person?
Susan Calman, who actually basically
Susan,
invented it. So Susan Calman was the first one, and we were having a lunch in Edinburgh. It must be about 3 years ago now, and it was in the Spoon restaurant in Edinburgh, which is lovely. And she said, "Oh, we should have a photo." And then I think it was her. I can't really remember, but she would have to clarify. But I think it was her who said, "Well, we should look really grumpy in it." And then I think I came up with the tagline, "Always a pleasure." And then that was it. And then I think the next one, who was the next one with it? Someone like Ahir Shah. I did one with Alfie Brown relatively early on. Arthur Smith, I think, was the second one that I did. And then it just rolled and rolled. And now I've got a folder in my Evernote, and there's something like 350 of them now. And not all of them have gone out. I've got a couple of good ones that are sort of waiting to go with various telly gigs that I've already recorded. But yeah, I love doing it. And people who really enjoy it, really enjoy it. You'll see the same people coming up and favouriting the tweets when they go out. So
you take quite a lot of notice of your Twitter feed and the people that follow you?
Yes and no, like more than I should really, because I like to create the illusion that I'm not really reading my @replies, and I definitely don't search my name. My mum does that for me. So she is an avid tweeter, and she will search my name to see what people have been saying. But yeah, I sometimes reply to @replies, but not. I try not to do it too much because I don't think people care either. I think people want to sort of just see you doing gags or providing something interesting, not replying to people that have said, "Oh, I really liked you on whatever," or "I think you shit on this," or whatever. I don't think people really want to see that on your feed.
It's quite interesting because I mean I make a point to reply to everyone.
Okay, so, yeah.
So only because I feel like it's building up a bit more loyalty with them. Yes.
Well, actually, when I started this YouTube series, the 15-second interview thing that I'm doing, I went on YouTube's sort of recommendations and suggestions, and they said it's worth replying to every comment within the first few hours of the video going out because it's a way of building up that loyalty, and they feel that they've got a connection with the show and whatever. So I think that is really important. You need to move around, don't you? Get out of the sun. It is It is roasting. Shall I open this a bit, or actually it's going to be noisy, isn't it?
No, it's all right. I mean, yeah, my home stretch move today was wearing black jeans in the sun.
Yeah, I'm doing the same.
Yeah,
roasted legs.
Yeah, definitely. And you wore a jumper.
I know, silly, and I haven't got a t-shirt on underneath, so I'll be fine there.
You can feel free. Right.
Just naked in the green room.
No one will ever know.
No one will ever know, with an Oscar.
I just can't believe I'm in the same room as an Oscar.
Yeah, crazy, isn't it?
It's really awesome.
2 Emmys. What else has she got?
They're not yours, by the way. We should.
No, they're mine. They belong to me.
Now,
yes. Well, I mean, yeah. How do you define something belonging to anyone? It's just a human construct, isn't it? It's just an inanimate object, really, in the universe. It's just atoms.
It is true, yeah. I mean, does that mean
shaped into an Oscar?
Well, that's a concept as well.
But also, a completely worthless concept. It sort of is, though, isn't it? It's not worthless completely, but it is arbitrary, the sort of people that end up getting Oscars. Even though I am thrilled that Jenny, who I live with, has got one, that it is an arbitrary thing, a small coterie of people that decide it.
Well, it's just
Is that how you just pronounce it? Coterie, it is, isn't it?
I don't even know the word.
Coterie is like a kind of an exclusive gang.
Oh, okay. Then yeah, why not? Then, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's a nice distraction from death, getting an award.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
And you've got a few of them as well.
Yes, what have I got? Chortles, mainly.
Yes, you are. I have it written down here. You were the Chortle student of the year. Or
yes,
comedian of the year. Probably
yeah,
more.
not just the best student. I definitely wasn't the best student that year because I didn't read any of the books in my exams. So I still managed to get a 2-1 somehow. Yes, best student comedian of that year.
And a newcomer.
And then best newcomer, was that the year after, I think, maybe, yes.
That was Yes, 2 years after starting, 2009, so 2010.
Yes. Gosh. Yeah.
I've used Google on you.
Yeah, have a Google. Why not? I was Googled. I had to renew my car insurance, and they said, "Oh, what's your profession?" Because I went with a different company in the end, and I said, "Oh, I'm an entertainer," which is what I said to the last one. And they said, "Oh, can you be a bit more specific?" And I said, "Oh, I do stand-up comedy." And he said, "Oh, have you been on television?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Oh, could you give me a list of all of the television you've done?" And it was this sort of weird thing. I was like, "Oh, I can't actually remember." So I Googled myself to sort of remind myself of all the things I'd done. And then as I was listing them off, he said, I may as well just Google you anyway. And I sort of said out of interest, why do you need to know? And he said, well, we need to establish if you're likely to drive anybody with a high profile in your car with you. Because if I drive Michael McIntyre along and smash his legs in or something, he can't work, then they might be liable to pay for his arena tour or something, I don't know. So I had to convince them that I wasn't going to be driving Michael McIntyre anywhere. But I think Michael McIntyre's fine for lifts, isn't he?
Yeah, why not? I am. While we're off topic, I went for a job at a social media agency where Russell Caine had once worked.
Okay.
And they offered me the job, but then they Googled me before I came in for the first day of work.
Okay.
And they said, "Oh, they rang me up and said, 'Oh, you're a comedian.'" And I went, "Yeah." And they said, "Why didn't you mention that in the interview?" And I went, "Because it's not relevant. I'm not doing that. I mean, I'm writing jokes for you, but it's not relevant."
Yeah.
And they said, "Well, we can't employ you because we had Russell Caine here, and he got offered a tour and left them quite abruptly and left them in the lurch. So I lost the job."
Oh, because of Russell Caine. Piss off, Russell.
I've never met him. He must be a lovely guy. But
No, he's an awful man, and I think lots of people have lost their jobs as a result of his whims. No, he's a nice guy. I did live at the Apollo with him. It was a comforting presence to be around. Yeah, that's very funny, isn't it? That Russell Caine ruined your job prospects.
Well, he didn't just do that, because the money I was going to use for that was going to pay for my deposit from a place in Edinburgh. So it had a knock-on effect in my comedy career.
But so you were actually intending on leaving the company to go to Edinburgh anyway?
Well, no, the contract ended in the middle of July, so I would have had time, unless they extended it, and even then there was 3 weeks in between. Okay. But
yeah, I think maybe you should contact Avalon, his management, and with a stern letter and say, you owe me.
Well, I've already contacted them for this, so if they haven't got back to me for this, I don't think they're going to get back to me
yeah.
to complain about one of their things. Well, I tell you what, let's see which narrative you'd rather go down for this.
Okay.
Awards or complaints?
Ooh. Well, I've not really won that many awards, and I've not had that many complaints to my knowledge, but I have done some complaining as stand-up.
Well, let's do it in that order, because then I'll explain to you why.
Okay.
Because you won an award quite early on.
Yes.
And you've won quite a few since.
Yeah.
As in you've come
I've come close. I've been nominated for things, and then yeah.
How have you found awards have been helpful or hindering towards your career?
At first, awards were very useful. I always say to newer acts, it's totally worth doing any of the newer comic competitions and awards, because it's a gig, and they're generally, it depends which competition, but generally they run well, and it's just such a useful experience to get that stage time. And if you don't do very well in it, nobody really remembers. It's not that big a deal. It's just a gig. And if you do well in it, some people will remember, but still not many people will remember it. But it's another credit you can put in those emails when you're contacting promoters to get more gigs and trying to get more interest. It's a nice little thing to put on there. So it's worth doing, because it's kind of win-win, even if you don't win. So they're really worthwhile. I did lots of things like So You Think You're Funny, and I got through to the semi-finals and things like that, which I didn't really have that competition set ready. And then it was just a kind of perfect storm of having the set ready and being in Edinburgh and being match fit, which is when the Chortle Student competition was. And yeah, winning that was a lovely boost. Got me going. It's funny, I already had an agent by that point, a lovely lady called Sarah King, who now doesn't rep anyone. She now works at a sound studio, but is a very dear friend. But she had signed me just on the basis that she liked my act, and that was really nice and exactly how you should sign with somebody. And it was funny how a lot of the agents, after I'd won Chortle Student, started sort of approaching me, even though they'd seen me before. I wasn't sort of worthwhile to them until I had these credits, which was quite telling as to their level of interest.
Does that? I mean, they are a business essentially, so they are looking
vultures. They are. That's their business, sucking our blood.
Yes, our creative life
our
juices.
Comedy blood.
Well, I mean, arguably yes, but also arguably we're all that. Like, we're all trying to be a business ourselves, and I can understand why someone who has a credit that maybe makes them more marketable makes them an easier sell for them.
Oh yes, I completely understand why they're approaching it in that way. But when you're trying to get an agent, generally you should be approaching it, I think, as you want somebody who believes in you and your act, and the credits don't really matter because careers fluctuate, and sometimes you have great years and then you have bad years and quiet times, and you want an agent that believes in your act above anything else. And you can it's one of those obvious things. The minute you win a competition and somebody comes to you straight away with their card, they didn't come to you after they saw you do your set or whatever, they came to you the minute you won. That suggests that they're not that fussed about the acts. They weren't like rushing to you after they'd seen the set. They're rushing to you after they thought, I can market it, which is totally a way of approaching the business side of things. But for me, I just thought, I don't know if that person believes in the long haul of what I want this to be, which is a lifetime career. And so I just felt that it was a bit cynical, really. But that happens all the time, and that's how agents operate, obviously. But I had a really good one because she really believed in my act and believed in me, and we're still friends as a result. So I think that worked out pretty well.
So how did you pick which agent you were going to go with?
Well, at the time, I don't think anyone else really worthwhile was offering. She just sort of offered it on a kind of ad hoc basis of, let's just see how it goes. And so and I liked her, and I had loads of meetings, and she really thought about it, and she came to loads of shows, so she really was invested in developing me as an act. And so that's how I decided to go with her. But I think a couple of other people had approached, but they just didn't seem to be that invested, and they'd only seen me do one show or whatever. I just liked her as well. I thought I could get on with her and speak to her on a regular basis.
So when you were with your first date, or when you were with, what was her name?
Sarah King.
Sarah King. Did she approach you, or were you already just emailing agents? Or
yeah, she approached me after I'd done the Amused Moose Hot Starlets, and she came to one of those, and she ran up to me afterwards and gave me her card. And then she came to a few gigs in London as well, and then we sort of had a few meetings and hung out a bit. And then that was. But she definitely approached me because I was told, you don't need an agent till you need one, basically, until you can't book your own diary, which isn't quite how I approached it. But I just liked the idea of having an agent. It seemed to legitimise my career in a way that it had just been a hobby up until that point, really. A very expensive hobby that was ruining my bank balance and didn't seem that credible to a lot of people at that point. Didn't seem realistic as a job prospect.
So were you getting like paid work at this point, or was it
not really? I was getting like the odd £50 gig here and there, but not making ends meet with it by any means. In fact, I think the Amuse Moose Hot Starlets you had to pay to do, I think. Or maybe you got a little bit of money, I can't remember, but it definitely wasn't a money spinner. And you had to go up to Edinburgh and find accommodation and all of that, which was not a cheap thing to do at any point. But yeah, I was doing lots of open spots, so no, I wasn't making a lot of money. Because
your first gig was at the Comedy Store in Manchester, I read.
Yes, well, there's. I like to argue that it's the one that I did in February, which was my first proper gig. But the November before that February, I went to the Comedy Store in Manchester to watch King Gong with a friend of mine, and got very hideously drunk. And the compere, which was Mick Ferry, he said, would anyone in the audience like to give it a go? And I thought, yeah, I can do better than this. Pumped up with loads of Magnus cider. Other ciders are available. Yes, I went up and did a horrible gag, which wasn't even a joke. I can't even remember exactly what it was, but it was something to do with Madeleine McCann. Very badly thought out, and I'd never do jokes like that these days. But I just thought that's what comedy was, and sort of died on my arse, obviously. So I think that sowed the seed of. I was very frustrated that I couldn't do it, and I felt like I could do it. So then an audition came up for a kind of student-run charity gig at the same venue in February. So I thought, this is my moment. This is my chance to prove them all wrong. And thankfully that one went well. So then I was addicted after that, because it just felt so good to be on stage doing stand-up and people laughing. Like, it just felt absolutely amazing.
So you didn't want to be a comedian before then?
I don't think so. I can't really remember what life was like before I was doing it. I was doing graphic design and I was making films. I was really into filmmaking, and I wanted to be creative, definitely, but I wasn't quite sure how. I was trying to do acting, but I was really bad at it. So yeah. I think I wanted to. I know I definitely want, because people often ask you, if you weren't a comedian, what would you be doing? And I say probably graphic design, because that was a source of income at one point, and I still do odds and ends of graphic design, and I did my own poster for Edinburgh this year, and I am working on a few sort of private projects doing graphic design and like a friend's wedding invite, things like that, and I do love it. So I'd probably be doing that sort of thing, but once stand-up started, I was fully addicted to that, so I just couldn't imagine doing anything else, and I still can't fathom a life without it. It is such a beautiful, privileged thing to be able to do.
Definitely. And I remember you used to, you had joelycettdesigns.com or something. You had that domain for a while.
Yeah, I had a design sort of arm. It wasn't a proper company, it wasn't like register or anything, but there was like a kind of company name that I was operating under, which was Satisfac, actually. That was the name of the company. I did logos for things, but charging desperately cheap rates, because I had no idea what was the correct amount to be charging. So I was sort of scraping together money from that and working in the theatre in Manchester, the Palace Theatre, and doing odds and ends of paid stand-up, but mainly open spots that weren't paid. And there were definitely a few times where I thought, I'm not going to be able to afford to get to this gig to get the money from it. It's like one of those. And then there was this sort of tipping point. I remember I had like an offer of a weekend in Liverpool for a lot more money than I'd get working at the theatre, because I was sort of on just above minimum wage there. But I had to turn down the gigs because I had shifts at the theatre. And I thought, that's not right. If that's happening, like, I should stop the theatre and really make a go of it. So I did. And it's worked out okay thus far. I'm quite pleased with how it's gone.
So you're profitable at the moment? You're like breaking even, or where would you say you are career-wise?
Profitable, yes.
Okay.
I'm not particularly good with money, but I'm trying to save. But I make good money. I'm happy with how much I earn. It's nowhere near what you can earn as a stand-up, but it's more than I think a lot of stand-ups are making at the minute, in terms of just how difficult the circuit is and how it's contracting quite a lot. But to be honest, I don't know how much I earn, because it fluctuates so much, and from month to month it can be very different. And also, I'm really bad with money, so I actually don't know. My accountant probably knows, but I have no idea actually how much I earned last year or whatever. But I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's the next question, Gon. No, I was only asking because I was wondering if you, without getting too personal, make a living or could make a living from just stand-up. Because I know you do TV stuff, and obviously you've got your design stuff as well.
Yes, I was trying to work out how much, like, as a stand-up, how much you sort of make if you're doing circuit gigs. And on average, like a good circuit, like Friday, Saturday night club, you're earning somewhere between 150 and I think the top paying is probably 220 pounds a show, which is good for a 20-minute set. So if you're doing, let's say you're doing a minimum of 3 of those a week, So you do Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or a double on the Friday or a double on the Saturday. So let's say you're earning 600 quid a week from that, and maybe top it up by another 200 quid with like a little gig on a Tuesday or whatever. So let's say you're making £800 a week. What's that? I'm really bad with maths. So that's
3,200 a month.
3,200 a month, which is about
before tax.
Before tax, so that's about 40 grand a year. So it's a really good wage.
Yeah.
You've got to take off agent fees from that, and then all the travel, and there's a lot of overheads with stand-up that are kind of hidden. Things like car insurance, which is crazy expensive for us. So there are quite a lot of hidden costs. But yeah, I mean, would you say that's your gross, the amount you take in from that?
Yeah.
If you're working every weekend, you're probably making, as a sort of jobbing comic, 30 to 40 grand a year, I would say.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not bad, is it?
It's above average.
Above average. I mean, what does a teacher get, like an entry-level teacher?
My sister is a
18,
primary school teacher, and I think she started on 18 or 19.
Yeah.
And she's, I don't want to
So
say which
double
right
a
now,
teacher.
but, yeah.
And the hours a teacher does are crazy, and the hours a stand-up does are nothing, really.
Well, she teaches and tutors to top up her money.
Oh, my word.
So that's the equivalent of our, Tuesday night little gig.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the more I look at it like that, I think, bloody hell, I've lucked out there. But then there's no security and pension and health and all of that stuff. There are a lot of downsides as well. But things could go horribly wrong with anyone's career. So I try not to look at it like that. And if I fell ill, I would have no source of income. But I'd sort of work it out. I'd just steal off people or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you might not live till pension age anyway.
It's unlikely, the way I live. Yeah, I'll be dead within the next 10 years.
Well, you heard it here first.
Yes,
that's
exclusive.
No, it's just an interesting thing, because we had a discussion with a different comedian a while ago. Actually, it won't be a while ago. Let me scrap that because of the order this is going to be in now. Basically, I'm talking to comedians as well as industry people, and it's interesting how many people, if they can make a living from just the circuit, because obviously TV stuff pays a lot more, and radio stuff pays just as much, but sometimes a little bit less. And so,
as TV?
Yeah, depending on what you're doing.
I disagree with that. TV doesn't, at my level, doesn't pay as much as you'd think, and radio pays a lot less than you'd think, actually.
What are you writing for radio, you mean? Or you mean just
like
appearing
being on like radio panel shows,
okay,
or being like guests on things? Radio is not a big money spinner.
Right, interesting.
It's definitely a labour of love, but it's a great training ground for a lot of comedy. But yeah, no one's a millionaire from working on the radio, really.
No.
Well, maybe like Nick Grimshaw, but I bet he gets paid. God knows what Nick Grimshaw gets, but I don't think even the top presenters that are presenting as DJs are getting crazy money. Well, probably crazy money to most people, but not millions. Yeah,
it depends on your profile, really, and like how long you've been doing the job as well. Because I see, because with that, there's like a career path. So your wage will probably go up each year. Whereas with this, if you don't get better, your wage literally could just drop.
Yeah, it can be quite ruthless.
So I didn't mean to worry you then.
Yeah, I need to write some more stand-up, don't I? Gosh.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah, could you leave? I need to write some jokes.
Let's write some jokes. Well, no, it's just, I mean, you've done a fair amount of TV. Mainly panel shows.
Mainly panel shows. I'm trying to do more stand-up shows. So I've done Live at the Apollo, and I've got coming up, or maybe I've been on it, probably been on it by now, unless I'm edited out. But when this is being recorded, listeners, I'm recording in a couple of weeks Sunday Night at the Palladium, which is a stand-up set. So I'm trying to do more stand-up on telly, because that's what I am. Like, I'm a stand-up. Panel shows are a good way of kind of boosting your profile and experimenting in other comedic forms, but it's not my main skill, and it's not something that I consider myself to be particularly good at this point. I'm getting better when I do panel shows, but I'm by no means brilliant at it. Not that I think I'm brilliant at stand-up yet either, but I've definitely had a lot more practice at that. But yeah, I've done quite a lot of telly.
And when you do a set on the TV, do you find that means that set is gone? Because once, say 2 million, 4 million, however many people watch Live at the Apollo have seen it. If you go and do it in a club, do you ever think people will be looking at it and going, "Well, I've seen this"?
Yeah, I don't really do any of the Apollo stuff anymore, for that reason. sometimes people want to hear it again, and actually I've had people come to gigs and go, I really wanted to hear you do the bit about the walrus, which is a sort of running gag that I had in my last show. But too many people will be like, oh, he's doing that again. And also you want to keep pushing yourself to do new stuff and churn out new material and new ideas. So doing something like Apollo is a really good way of forcing you to abandon your kind of crutches and start from... It was a lot of the kind of my opening stuff that I did on Apollo was the kind of way that I would open a club gig, and that was all gone once that was done on telly. And so I had to find new ways of sort of easing my way into shows, which was interesting. I had new routines that I'd written already, but my opening line had to change, and my the way I explained myself had to be refreshed and renewed. Which was really good as a kind of cathartic process, actually, of sort of getting rid of the old way of thinking about how I was introducing myself on stage.
Yeah, because it's obviously a different environment as well.
Yeah.
So not everything's transferable.
Yeah. But it was also, I was going on stage and I was sort of saying I'm bisexual and means you're all at risk and all of those gags which I was doing for a long time. And now I sort of identify as bisexual, but I sort of don't as well. I feel like sexuality is a little bit more confusing than I thought it was. So I am currently using the term pansexual, but I never really say that to people if they ask, because people just get very confused by that. But by opening by saying I'm bisexual, it sort of felt quite old-fashioned to me in an odd way. Like it felt not right. So it's quite nice to get rid of that as a as a way of introducing myself.
Have you ever found, from maybe introducing yourself as bisexual or even talking about your sexuality on stage, you've come across sort of negativity or like audiences that maybe get switched off by you because they're like, oh, I thought he was something else? Or... Yeah,
well, people just don't really believe it a lot of the time. They just think I'm gay. And also, I think a lot of audiences, particularly people who've seen me a lot, are sort of bored of hearing me talk about it. But then a lot of people come to the shows because they're bisexual and they want to hear people talking about it. And since I've been saying pansexual on stage, people are really, like the people that identify as pansexual are thrilled that somebody else is doing that, so and doing it publicly. So, well, often, I mean, maybe some people wouldn't be, and I definitely don't consider myself to be much of an ambassador for anything but myself. But there are definitely some people that were like, well, what is this? Who gives a shit? Kind of what your sexuality is, make me laugh. But there will always be people that think that about anything you say on stage.
Do you, because we were talking before we started recording about you doing stuff that's quite personal to you, do you prefer then to talk about the personal stuff to do with you and be like, well, fuck you, if you don't want to come hear it, don't come hear it?
A little bit. I'm getting more resilient in that way. I had a gig in Mansfield recently where I didn't do very well in terms of I didn't produce laughter, which is what you want. They were fine. They were a really nice audience, and they were patient and they didn't heckle. And I tried everything. I tried different routines, different ways of approaching it. Tried to do audience interaction, and I did it all very calmly. And I didn't have that panic that I used to get when I was having bad shows, because I was just resigned to the fact that I am me and I have this act that I have cultivated, and it's getting better, but it's all I've got, really, and if they don't like it, I can't really do anything about that, and that will happen. Statistically, it's going to happen. It happens to everyone. And I was very kind of zen and calm about the fact that I was dying on my arse, basically. So, yeah, I am getting more and more resilient to audiences going, well, we're not into this, and just sticking with it, because you can't mould yourself to what people want to see. You just have to trust that what you're doing is good enough for enough people to come and see you on a tour.
Well, I mean, like when you're doing TV,
yeah, or
when you're in someone else's house, it were. So
yeah,
like, it's their venue. I'm assuming TV will have to be like, don't talk about these things. It's going out at this time. You can't swear.
Yeah.
Or do they even come and see you in a club and say, that's the set we want to see?
Yeah, Apollo, you do like a warm-up set and they go through everything, because there's just weird things where they have to check the legality of saying the company name and whether they can be sued. So there's all sorts of weird law-based things that get involved with television. because you can't be libelous and all of the fun things in life you just can't really do. But yeah, so there are lots of.
I feel even now you're watching what you're saying, trying to.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find better words. I got quite drunk last night. It's basically the problem. So my mind is not firing in the way that it should be. But yeah, I am sort of quite good at self-censorship these days, just because naturally you have to be in life. I think that's a good thing. I hate those sorts of people that go, I just say what I think. You just think, well, no, that's what thinking's for.
That's what maniacs do, isn't it?
Yeah.
You just walk around like going, birds.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Because every thought you think, you say it.
Yeah, it'd be absolutely absurd, wouldn't it? Because I've got a slight itch. It doesn't need to be articulated, does it?
I feel like some people on Twitter need to be told that.
Oh God, yeah. Most
every
people on
thought
Twitter
doesn't need
do.
to be.
I do. I need to be told that. Definitely broadcasting far too much about my life. Doesn't need to be out there.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't feel like the content you put on social media tells me much about your life. I feel like it's more... I mean, unless...
No, it doesn't really. Let's go for it. Hello, listener.
I might open it with that. Just take that soundbite and put it at the start.
Yeah, lovely.
Hello, listener.
Hello,
it would have
listener.
been like Stuart Lee if I...
Hello, listener. You join me here in the green room, where we are watching my second mother, my adoptive mother, sort of, Jenny Bevan, cutting the grass in the garden.
You are.
I'm watching.
I'm watching the levels.
You're watching the levels on the laptop.
I am the person who enjoys these the least out of everyone because I'm sat there looking at everything. And going, no, honestly, and then someone stops talking, and I'm like,
you're playing all the roles, aren't you? You're producer, presenter, technician. It's quite full on.
It's because I don't trust anyone else.
No, and why should you?
Well,
maybe you should interview yourself, and then there's no
really go meta.
Yeah.
So people, do you ever do this where like you, where you're out and about and you're so insecure about something, you start having a conversation with someone you think would pick you up on something about that thing you're insecure
constantly.
about.
Oh my God, yeah.
And then you like an hour later, you're in this really intense argument in your head about how, no, I can enjoy yoga.
Yeah.
What's your problem, Dave? Like, why would you ever, like, that's not girly. What's your
that's
fucking
such
problem?
a common thing that I do, actually. I mean, it must be a common human thing, surely.
I do it all the time.
But like having sort of fake arguments with people. But yeah, it's not even that. It's sort of preempting that someone's going to contest you and then knowing how illogical their contestation is. Is that a word, contestation?
Yeah.
And yeah, really getting furious about that nothing has happened.
Yeah. And then do you know what I love is I love it when you're on the way to meet someone and you've had this big argument with them in your head.
Yeah.
And then you have to sit there and just sort of go, I can't tell you how mental I am. Like, you can't do this at all.
I'm really livid with you, but for no good reason.
But for the thing I think you're... And then, you know what I hate about it is you sit down with them, so you're Dave, and I go, hey, Dave, you've just come from yoga. And he's almost annoyingly okay with it. Yeah. Like you've had this big argument, and he's just sitting there going, cool, how was it? Yeah.
Aren't you going to have a go at me about it?
You know, just like...
I played out an argument with you, Dave. Yeah. That's really funny.
Thanks.
You should do some stand-up about it.
I've got 4 minutes in my show on it.
There we go.
Come see it. It's called Buddhism and Cats.
Okay. I'll be there front row.
Front row. You'll be sitting
I've
there
heard this
correcting.
before. Oh.
I saw it on the Apollo.
Oh, God, this old shit.
Yeah. Well, now I've got enough of an advert in this for my show.
Yes.
Let's do one for yours. You have a tour.
I have a tour coming up called That's the Way Joe Lycett. Yeah.
That's not the actual, that bit I put on.
That's the bit you put on. I didn't even think to do that. I probably should have. Because I like the longer the better for me. I'd love to call one, Do You Really Lycett? Is it wicked? We're loving it. We're loving it, Lycett. Because that will take up
when I wasn't drinking.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Because that will take up all of the word count in any brochure. So there'll be no chance for any quote. Or maybe like a one-word quote, which will just be like, fine, The Guardian. Or something.
That's amazing.
Like that. Maybe next year, maybe next tour.
I nearly, when I was doing a show, I was doing a compilation show, the first show I went to Edinburgh, and I nearly called it, We Don't Know Who the Hell You Are Either. Because I wanted to see, like, you know how people just go through it and they're like, oh, these guys look alright, I don't know who they are.
Yeah.
And I just wanted someone to read it and go, oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
But we didn't go with that in the end.
No. It's sort of a bit too self-deprecating, I would argue. Have a little bit more faith in yourself.
I didn't back then.
No.
I still don't, technically.
No. Well, you know, we've all got our problems, haven't we?
Yeah. I've got a lot in my head as well. Like,
yeah, well, having arguments with people you've not going to actually have an argument with is one.
Well, I just find I live more of my life in my head and my phone than in real life.
Yeah.
And that's why I like this podcast. I get to go out and actually meet people. And it means I have to leave the house.
Yeah, and live your life. Yeah, it's bad, isn't it? You spend a lot of the time sort of focused in on the phone, which people, the kind of go-to response now is how bad that is and how it's turned us all into more like idiots or whatever. I was going to say mongs then. Is that an acceptable word?
No.
Totally not. Definitely chop that out.
No.
Yeah. It's turned us all into idiots that are going blind, or all of the kind of cliches. But actually I think the phone provides a lot of amazing things. And I spend a lot of time in the bath writing on the phone. And a lot of the best stand-up I've written or the best ideas have come to me in the bath. And I've been on the phone just tapping away. So I couldn't really write with a pen and paper in the bath. So my stand-up my creativity is benefited quite a lot from the phone.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason for that is because you're focused on another task, so your mind is able to experiment and creatively explore other ideas in a freer way than if you just sit with a bit of paper and go,
yes.
I need a joke.
Yeah, yeah. But also, in a weird way, when you're in the bath, you can't kind of, I'll go make a cup of tea, or I'll just go to the loo. You're in the bath, so you can't move from that position. You can check Twitter again, check Facebook, but actually you are restricted to just being on the phone. And that's all you can do. Maybe have a sip of your water. Maybe have a fart and enjoy the bubbles. But that's basically all you can do.
I do most of my writing on a train because there's so many. My therapist says that I need as many senses engaged as possible in order to not overthink things. Because if I only have one sense engaged, like if I'm listening to music and writing, it's not as good for me as if I've got like sights and sounds and smells and things around.
Oh, that's interesting. So, yeah, I can imagine that.
Yeah,
I'm trying to be a bit more holistic in my writing approach by sort of reading more and taking more into my brain, so that when I write, I've just got imagery that wouldn't have been there before, that kind of thing, so there's more sort of things in a little pool of ideas that are sort of floating around, and they can pick out when you need them.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
If you've got nothing in the pool, or the pool's full of old ideas, then you're going to struggle to create anything new and interesting.
Have you done The Artist's Way?
A little bit of it. I did the morning pages for a while, which is where the walrus idea came from. But I haven't done. I never completed it because it's so long. I thought I'm not going to be able to write the show because I'll just be reading this book. So no, I've not completed it. But it's something I'd like to have a go at some point, because I gather it is brill. Yeah. But no, I've not done it yet.
I started it, and in it tells
everyone started.
Yeah,
it.
I know.
No one's finished it.
My girlfriend
even the woman who wrote it hasn't finished it.
Yeah, the book's just like 9 pages at the back.
Yeah.
No, there's a thing in it about artist dates. So you take yourself and you go and look at something you always wanted to do.
Yeah.
So you fill your creative bank up with new things.
Well, I do. Yeah,
so
I do that, but I just don't call it an artist date because I'm not a wanker. I just go to the cinema on my own, and that's. I suppose you could call it an artist date, but it's just I'm in Brighton waiting for a gig, and I've got a chance to watch a film, so I go and do that. That kind of that's. So I do probably a lot of the artist's way anyway, without having to formalise it in I'm doing the artist's way. Although I think it is helpful to look at one's life as the life of an artist when trying to do stand-up, because otherwise it can start to feel a bit desperate when you've just got to fill an hour show and it feels like you just got to do that for the sake of selling a tour or whatever, when actually if you can look again, I'm an artist and this is I'm working towards something, it can feel a lot more colourful
and meaningful.
Yeah.
No, I know what you mean, and I agree with the sentiment that like refilling up your, even if you're doing it a different way, your bank of but the thing is, I avoid comedy when I'm like in a writing session.
Yeah, totally.
Because if I watch like a season of Only Fools and Horses, at the end of it, one of the characters I've like embedded, and like I'll be like Trigger for like a week. I'll be like walking around going, "All right, Dave." Yeah. I've even done it. I've said Dave. I don't know any Daves, and I've said Dave 4 times in this podcast. Yeah. So
it's funny. Yeah, that naturally will happen though, isn't it? And the thing is that I actively try not to watch stand up while I'm writing stand-up. But I had a very interesting conversation with Sarah Pascoe. Every conversation I've ever had with Sarah Pascoe has been very interesting because she is so brilliant. And she was saying how she watches a lot of stand-up because all of the best authors, they read a lot. And to think that in order to get good at stand-up, you can't watch stand-up is perhaps naive. But also it's about noticing when you've watched a lot of one stand-up, if the rhythms of that stand-up or the structures of the material replicate what they're doing, and sort of flagging that as quickly as possible. But we're all replicating just an amalgamation of loads of stand-ups that we love, I suppose. So, yeah.
Yeah, it comes down to what we said at the start, where everything's just atoms that are just being re-signed around.
Yes, we're just moving the same comedy atoms around, and hopefully I can shape mine into a Foster's Comedy Award.
Are you going for the award this year?
Well, everyone says they're not, but they are, aren't they, I suppose? I don't know. I really don't think that I'm the sort of act that would get one, but then...
It's another thing everyone says.
Yeah. I don't know, but then I'm always surprised. I don't think it's ever worth approaching it for that, but it would be a lovely thing, but who knows?
So, the show you've written the show, obviously you're on tour at the moment?
I'm just sort of working up the material for the. So I am doing shows all the time, but they're kind of work in progress or club gigs at the minute. And then the tour officially starts in Edinburgh and then runs kind of from the end of September around the country to the end of December, but probably will run into 2016.
So you've been a tour support. You've done tour support.
Yes,
for a little
few
while.
People.
Yeah. How did you know that or was it an agency move to take you from being the support to the headliner, as it were?
Well, it's a sort of a natural progression in one's career. When we've done a bit of telly and you think you might be able to sell a tour, then I did one about 18 months ago, excuse me, where we did little kind of 100-seater venues and just had a go. And some of them sold horribly and some of them sold very well. And I didn't know what I was doing, and it was a real curveball, not curveball, learning curve, but it's the only way of getting good at it, and it's much better to do it that way rather than wait till you can sell out thousands and thousands and not really know what you're doing. Much better to experiment with the smaller audiences and try different ways of doing a tour show and approaching it in different ways. So some of them I did with support, some of them I did without, and I messed around with how I did the support. So some of them I kind of compared at the start and then brought the support on and then had a break and then did the show, and then some of them I just did the support and then I went on. It's finding ways of doing it that work for you really and make it fun and interesting and new for you. So I'm working that out slowly, but I'm really excited about this tour in a way that I wasn't about the last one, because I was just so panicked by the last tour and didn't feel I was capable, whereas I've learnt that it's totally doable, and some of them will be weird and some of them will be nice, but it's all good. Largely, it's all experience and learning. So yeah, I'm really excited about this tour. But yeah, it was basically management said, we think you're ready to sell off your own name. Do you want to have a go? And I said, yeah, go on then. And I sold quite well in hometown, and then something like 15 tickets in Hull. Hopefully Hull will be a bit busier this time round. Who knows?
Are you using social media to work out where your audiences is?
A little bit, but the sales really reflect. You look at the kind of list of places, and there are lots of places where I don't have much of an audience at this point. But whether that will get better, but there's a lot of places that everyone will sell out, and a lot of places that everyone struggles to get people into. It's kind of there's just a few cities that don't go mad for comedy, and it's really hard to sell well there.
Yeah, I mean, after Edinburgh, I'm hoping I don't have management, so I'm doing that myself. But on the analytics thing on Twitter, it tells you where all your people are, like who are following.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm using that, and then I'm like tweeting out saying, Manchester followers, for example.
Yeah.
Would you come and see me in this venue?
Yeah.
And just asking them directly.
That's interesting, yeah.
Because I'd rather sort of, not know, but like have an inkling of if they're not going to make it up to Edinburgh.
Well, yeah, could they come and see you somewhere else? So how do you find out where your followers are from? How is that? That's on Twitter?
Yeah, it's analytics.twitter.com.
Okay.
And then it's got like a profile section, so it shows your followers, and then it's got like a breakdown of the top cities where you are.
Oh, wow.
It's really useful.
That's really useful. I didn't know that. Analytics.twitter.com. I will waste a few hours on that later.
Oh no, don't get into it too much, because it'll show you everything you've got, like, so all your statistics on every tweet, and like you just can lose yourself in it, and then go mad and be like, oh, they love the tweet about cockerels, I got to tweet more about birds. Everyone loves birds.
Okay, yeah.
And also it tells me who people are following as well as me. So like the top mutual followers, it's people like Adam Hess at the moment, which is quite nice because he's really good.
Yeah,
so,
no, that is good. He is very funny, Adam Hess. Very, very funny.
I feel like you want to go and check that now.
I really want to go and check it. I really want to know what. Like, I'm just thinking back through like recent tweets because it might reveal why Firm Britain blocked me.
It doesn't tell you who blocked you.
No, I really want to find out why she blocked me.
Do you want me to send her a tweet and be like, why have you blocked my friend Joe Lycett?
I can only think that it's a mistake. I can't begin to imagine why she would have. Maybe an unfollow, but a block is so permanent. But what I also like is anyone who's gone to block me. My profile picture on Twitter is me doing a really ridiculous face. So they must have got so annoyed with me and then gone onto my Twitter and looked at that picture, and that's the last thing they see of me going like, "Mrr," and then having to click block. I love that so much.
Yeah. That's quite. It's quite like It's like I want to be the last face you see before you die. Like
yeah.
That's really
and the
cool.
the last version of me that they see is me doing some stupid face.
You know what happened then? They'll get off Twitter and then just go, yeah, and he was all smug about it on there.
yeah.
That'd be amazing.
He was smug about it on the podcast.
Haven't you been on a program with Firm Britain for who's the? This is going to need editing down because I've forgotten what his name is, but the Keith Lemon. Like that
Celebrity Jews?
Yeah, was she on that?
No, she wasn't.
Or am I thinking of Fern Cotton?
Yeah, Fern Cotton is who you're thinking of. Firm Britain was the one that hosted This Morning.
They're not two people you get mixed up very easily.
Well, no, I think they probably get mixed up more than you'd think. But I gather, because I did a bit of Googling about Fern Britain after she blocked me, that her and Phil don't really speak anymore either, because apparently she was a bit annoyed about how much he got paid on Mr. and Mrs. But that's according to like the Sun newspaper, so
it's probably not true.
Probably not true. But interesting that Phil said that they don't really speak anymore because they seem like best buddies on that show.
Everyone seems like best buddies on that.
They all hated each other. Fascinating.
It's true. I imagine all the judges on Britain's Got Talent hate each other. And they just have to sit next to each other because
who are the judges? So it's Simon Amanda Holden, David Williams, and someone else.
They keep rotating it to like another pop star each time. I think.
Yeah.
I think it was Lady Gaga at one point.
Wow.
I don't really watch it. I watched the. I go to the YouTube and look up the trending most dire ones for the first couple of weeks, and then like wait until the last 2 weeks, and then watch the really talented ones.
Yeah.
And then find them on social media, but then I just leave it because I'm like,
it's so much. There's so many hours to get through, aren't there? Yeah, it's exhausting.
Oh well.
No, not a big. Well, I do like it, and I've done the spin-off show a couple of times, I think, but I've not watched it recently because it is just. It's such an undertaking, and I feel like I should be reading or doing something slightly more edifying than watching sort of something peculiar has happened in the room. Watching Britain's Got Talent.
Well, okay. Let's go back on track to show stuff.
Yes.
Titles.
Yes.
Your show titles are among the best.
Yes, they seem to be quite good, don't they? Thank you for the compliment.
No, go ahead. You can be arrogant about them because they're very good. I mean, you've locked out with your surname.
Well, yes, I suppose I have really, because it's the sort of surname that doesn't immediately lend itself to a pun, but the more you think about it, there's a ton of them. Yeah, so my shows have been called Some Lycett Hot. If Joe Lycett, then you should have put a ring on it, and now that's the way. Joe Lycett. I'm going to run out of these. I think.
Never.
Yeah, maybe. I need people to release songs with "like it" basically in the title. I Kissed a Girl in Joe Lycett, Drop It Lycett Hot.
Have you thought about doing a single so that you could just use the song?
Oh my God, that's a great shout. That's a really good shout.
Or
I could do like a charity album of all of those covers of all of those songs, but change it to Lycett. Or Some Lycett Hot isn't a song, is it? It's a film. Maybe I'll just do a cover film.
That's a lot more effort.
It is a lot more effort. Yes, my shows, the themes emerge slowly as they're being written, so I can't really name them when they go on sale because I don't really know what they're about. I've always found it weird when I went to watch comedy when I was before I was doing comedy when I was watching sort of stand-ups when I was a child, and when they sort of a stand-up named their show, I thought that's a weird thing to do because it's just them doing stand-up. Why do I need to? The title doesn't help me in any way. It's not. And so that I'm quite glad that I've found something that's funny because at least people are laughing before they get to the show, and it's a kind of jolly. It sort of sums up what my shows are about, which is just a bit of taking the piss, really, and just being a bit silly.
Yeah, it feels very you.
Yeah,
from what I've seen of you on stage, the character, of Joe Lycett, and the style of the show.
Yeah.
So I think even though. I mean, have you ever had it where like someone's come up to you and gone, I didn't know what this was going to be about because of the title, but it's really good? Or because sometimes people like the fact that, especially in Edinburgh, that the name can pull them in.
Yeah. I might have had some people coming to the show because they thought it was a Beyonce show last time, perhaps. But no, I don't think anyone has sort of been disappointed. And I sort of said in the show, this isn't a show to do with Beyonce, so sorry if you want me to do the dance or something, it's not going to happen. But
She's got this vision of Louisa Omerland getting up and going, "Fuck this!"
yeah. She was the one person that stormed out. Actually, no, I think most people know what they're sort of going to see, and I think it might have even been in the blurb for the last one that it wasn't to do with Beyonce. I'm trying to think. I feel like there was something I did that really made it clear at the start. But I think it was just me saying there won't be anything Beyonce themed in this show.
That's enough,
That's
really.
Fine, isn't it? And then I did a full show about Beyonce. That was the joke. No, it wasn't to do with Beyonce. Yeah. This has got nothing to do with Beyonce, apart from everything. Yeah.
So, who sings the song you've got at the moment? That's the way.
The Sunshine.
Casey and the Sunshine
Casey and the Sunshine Band. Yeah.
Has it got anything to do with them?
No. Hopefully there'll be some form of sort of sunshiny. It'll be nice and shiny.
It's really cheesy.
no, there's nothing to do with it.
If you don't have as the music just before you come on be that song, but
yeah,
with you talking over it.
Yeah. That's totally what I'm doing. Yeah.
Are you really?
Yeah. Completely.
That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah. No, that's too good to miss as a thing.
That's a great thing.
Yeah. No, I will be doing that, and I think I'll do it live, so it'll be really clunky. That's the idea.
That's awesome.
But I haven't quite worked that out yet. But yeah.
Oh, awesome. I was going to ask because it sounds like your management not only keep you grounded, but also are able to quantify where you're at as a career path. Because it sounds like they've said to you, because would you have picked to do a tour without them?
Probably not, because I would have been too frightened.
Is that because of all the undertaking, or because you just don't think you're big enough?
A bit of both, but also like it's just don't feel like I could write the show, or I like to live a relatively leisurely life, and so the idea of doing a tour and loads of dates and writing the show and having to navigate sales and all of that just seems very frightening. But they make that very, very comfortable and easy, and they're very good at. They're just very good. They're a very, very professional, very talented group of people, lovely group of people who know exactly what they're doing. So it makes the whole thing very joyful.
And do you read reviews?
No.
Do they?
Yes.
Do they send them?
No. So I have a thing, and I might stop it now, because I was very anti-reviews when I started out, because they often revealed things that I agreed with and sort of made me feel not very confident, which sort of hindered the stand-up. But then I had a few conversations, mainly one with Josie Long, who said there's no point in reading them because they try and tell you who you are, and naturally, even if it's positive, you will respond positively or negatively towards those just minor little descriptions of you. This sort of camp comic Joe Lycett delivered a perfectly fine show. You sort of go, oh, am I camp? I feel like I come across as a bit camp, and it's fine. And not like I thought that bit was better. Like you naturally start to react against it, and you're putting an influence on your show into the hands of people who are critics, who I think it's a bit of a weird profession to go into. Like generally when I meet critics, they're not the sort of people I want to hang out with loads. There's a few that I really like as people, but often they're like a bit weird and a bit, a bit damaged. To not be too cruel about it, but I just think if you've sort of decided that your endeavour in life is to sort of tell other people how to do their job, even if that's providing a useful service to somebody, I still don't think it's that admirable.
Interesting. Okay. And are there any reviewers that you read just to find shows to go and see?
Occasionally Steve Bennett's work, but I make a point really of not reading reviews about myself or anyone really. I don't want that kind of sort of mindset to sort of infiltrate into my head really. I don't want there to be that voice in my head going, well, what will Steve Bennett think of this joke? You don't really want that to be in your head, and it can be, because I do picture it's often Steve Bennett. I just think, what would Steve make of that? And you think, well, I'm not writing it for Steve. Why have I put so many eggs in the Steve basket? I really like Steve, he's a nice guy, and he's been very supportive. But and he's always sort of been put me on at his sort of gigs and things, and asked me to do things that are Chortle related. But I similarly don't necessarily want to know his opinion any more than anyone else's. So I don't email around my friends saying, "What did you think of my last stand-up?" I don't do that. I just do my stand-up, There is a guy called Ed Stambaluian, who is a theatre director, who's a really good friend of mine, who directs my stand-up, and he will often read the reviews, and then if there's anything very common across them all, he'll try and explain that to me in as gentle a way as possible, so that I don't get too... I'm just a very delicate flower, really, and I don't want anyone to be hurtful towards me.
It's fair enough.
Yeah.
Sounds like every other comedian.
Yeah, basically. But I do. There is, and I don't quite know how to articulate it, but I do just think that criticism as a profession isn't admirable. I don't think it's kind of, to me, it's a sort of akin to like working in a call centre, cold calling people. It's that kind of thing where I understand why it exists and it provides a purpose, but it doesn't mean that I have to like it or approve of it.
I get what you mean. When I did my first show at Edinburgh, or it was like a split thing, I specifically emailed everyone I could find and said, don't come.
Yeah.
Because we're just doing a split show, we don't want any reviewers.
Yeah.
And that meant every one of them came.
Yeah.
Because they thought it was some sort of stunt.
Yeah.
But we were like, no, we don't want anyone coming in.
Yeah.
Which was awful in a way, because, you know what I mean? You're like, it wasn't like reverse psychology or anything like that.
Yeah.
Go away, the skinny or whoever.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you... Because, you don't really... you use some quotes on your posters and things.
Yeah, so those are all kind of got for me by management. So I'll sort of say, is there any quotes that you can recommend that can go on the poster? So I suppose I do see those things, but I generally try to avoid knowing. And in Edinburgh, I don't read anything, but you kind of know roughly how things are going because you see how many stars have been put on your poster and that kind of thing. So you know roughly... how it's being received, but I think the minutiae of what people think of it is what's not useful, really. I think you can get a guess based on somebody's face whether they're enjoying a show or not. I wouldn't go up to any one person and sort of say, "So, what did you make of that routine?" I don't want or need to know, really. It doesn't help me.
No, that makes sense.
It doesn't help the work.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it also probably ties into your not searching Twitter for your name. Because none of your shows I've noticed have a hashtag for them.
No.
So I'm presuming you're specifically not trying to encourage people to, send you feedback.
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, I don't really want that. And I don't Google myself. I don't do any of that stuff. And people that do it, I always recommend to not, because it is such a nicer headspace to be in when you just don't know what people are saying about you. It's so much nicer because people will be saying horrendous things about you, and you will. It is like picking a scab. It's a cliche that people use when they say sort of Googling yourself, but you will go to the bottom of the thread to see just how many people have said nice or nasty things about you, and you're looking for nasty when you're doing it, and it's just not a healthy thing to do, really.
Yeah, that's human nature. Like if there's a fight going on over here, and there's like sunshine over here, because of our primitive brains, we're wired to go for the negative to
Yeah.
find the thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, when I'm looking at reviews, because I do still read them, I probably should stop, but I don't get reviewed that often. So I feel like at the moment, it's not that big of a chore or issue to read one person's review.
Yeah.
Although I know what you mean. I mean, my last Chortle review, I got reviewed as skinny white male comedian was like the opening to it.
Yeah.
And I was like, can't I go one review without being called,
Yeah.
stop judging my appearance, like kind of thing. So I know what you mean if like you get judged as Camp Joe Lycett. Although that would be a weird start to a review.
Well, I'm sure I have been reviewed I'm definitely have the word camp's been used tons of times, and I use it about myself, so it doesn't really matter. But there's this sort of feeling of like, and I know that critics probably think about comics that don't read their reviews, they're just very vulnerable and they can't deal with criticism. Yeah, basically I can't. but there's nothing really wrong with being vulnerable. Like that's where it comes from. Like
that's the job.
I think being sensitive to things is what makes me me, and what makes my stand-up accessible. I think sometimes is that there is a vulnerability to me, and there is that sort of feeling of. This one of the things I noticed about Trevor Noah when I went to see him first time is that you kind of there's a delicacy to him, like you feel like he's very much in control, but also there's a fragility to him, and that's a beautiful thing. And to sort of say, oh well, you shouldn't like be stronger, you should man up, and you should read them, and just people are going to say horrible things about you, and you should be able to deal with it. Well, I don't know necessarily whether you should. I don't think that will change me in some way. That will spoil my nature. I don't want to be stronger in some ways. I think the great power of my work sometimes is that it is fragile and I am weak.
Do you think your management has impacted on who you are on stage? Because clearly when they first saw you, when they first saw you, they saw something in you and wanted to book you for that. And you have evolved from that to who you are now.
Yeah.
Do you think that management has steered you in any way towards what you are now based on trying to make you more marketable? Or do you think, even down to like maybe sort of trying to suggest, that might work better, or maybe writing with this person might help you out? Or
completely. My management is Chambers Management. My manager is Hannah Chambers, and she has a very hands-on approach to my career, my work. She comes to a lot of previews, she gives notes, she has a lot of thoughts, and I really like that. I often don't like it at the time, but I see the value of it afterwards. But she has to play a number of roles. She has to think of how she can market me to the industry and to execs, tele-execs and that kind of thing, but also make me be at my best as well. And so she has a very sort of tricky line to tread, really. But I am a better comic for being with her because she has that hands-on approach, and she is motivational, and she does, say you should be writing, and there is that kind of pressure from her to perform, really, and to make the best of myself and my work. And I think that's why she's regarded as one of the best, if not the best agent, is because she has that approach of, you'll work as hard as I will, and then together we'll create this thing together. I think it's very important if you're a manager of anything that you really believe in the product, and if you feel that the person that you're managing isn't really putting the effort in, then it is harder for you to sell that product. So she's very motivational and very good at steering things, and just has a very good eye. But as to the other people in the office, and they often will, when asked, they will give really useful, constructive criticism on my stuff. And I like hearing it, and that's the difference, is that I've solicited it and I trust those people. I haven't solicited it from critics in any of the newspapers or any of the sort of websites. And those reviews aren't for me. That criticism isn't for me. It's for the people that read their publications to decide whether they want to come and see me or not. Which I would argue is not necessarily a useful way of deciding what to do with your life. But they are brilliant at, and very hands-on, and very good at straddling that line between understanding that I need to be marketable, but also I need to be myself and make the work that I want to make.
Yeah, because if you're not happy, it's not like it's going to be a good show anyway.
No, exactly. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And your debut show in 2012 was, it was one of the Edinburgh Fringe Awards. Went forward for one of the Edinburgh Fringe Awards anyway.
Yes, the best newcomer, Foster's nominee. Yeah.
Was that like an aim when you took it up?
No, but I was absolutely thrilled with it. Again, wasn't expecting in any way, did not think the show was what the judges would be after, didn't think the show was good enough necessarily. I was really proud of it, but I didn't think it was as good as the kind of the work that a lot of other people are doing. So I was thrilled, really thrilled.
So when you just found out, it was literally like they'd come. Did you know they'd been in? Or
Yes, I knew that there was a chance because they'd been in a few times, and my agent sort of said that she thought she had a feeling and she'd spoken to somebody, because it should be completely private until it all comes out, but I don't think it is, and I think there probably are influences from outside the industry, and obviously it's a series of judges who change every year, and they all have their own motivations for who they vote for and whatever. So it is kind of what we were saying before about Oscars. It's a small coterie of people that have their own interests at heart a lot of the time. So it is slightly arbitrary, but still everybody wants to be part of it. And it's the same with most awards, really. Everyone knows that it's slightly bullshit, but everyone still wants one. It's a really strange kind of what's the word? Contradiction. But yes, she rang me, my agent rang me because she was told, and my phone, I'd just been for a run with Rob Deering in Edinburgh, and it had rained and my phone stopped working because I got water in it, so I couldn't hear her, so she had to text me to say that I'd been nominated, which was very nice. So then I had to find a sort of another phone to ring people with because my phone wasn't working. But yeah, I remember it being a very exciting day, and I was a bit shaky. And then I was absolutely livid that Daniel Simonson won, because he beat me to in the semi-final of So You Think You're Funny as well, and then won So You Think You're Funny. Always bloody being beaten by Daniel Simonson. Not bad.
He's almost as bad as Russell Caine.
Oh my God, he's worse than Russell Caine. He's awful. Worst man alive. He's lovely. I
was going to say, lovely.
He is genuinely one of the nicest and most deserving people. Yeah, but I'm awesome. Still bloody livid with him.
No, he's awesome. I've gigged with him a couple of times, and
yeah.
he's always
he's exceptional.
Just so lovely to talk to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just such a great... His craft is absolutely crafted. He's worked super hard on it, and he is an exceptional stand-up.
Yeah, I've seen him do new material, and he's like bulletproof with new stuff. Like yeah. he'll go up and just be like, "This is new, but it's happening."
Yeah.
And some you know when you go up with like a new idea, sometimes
and you just like, flesh it out.
This could be all right, guys.
He's so good, isn't he? Yeah, he's very, very talented, very precise.
Mm. When it comes to marketing your shows, do you find social media sells tickets?
Not really, but I don't know. But I don't think it does necessarily. I think it helps, definitely, and I think it gets the kind of idea and the word out. But I think people need a sort of two-pronged approach, I think, to buy tickets, in my observation of... I've got a friend that produces theatre. You kind of need an article somewhere for them to see and go, oh, okay, or whatever, and then see another thing about it, and then to be reminded to go, oh yeah, I should get tickets for that. But I do think I tweet about it a lot, just so that people know that it's happening. And every time I do, something on telly or whatever, I'll tweet afterwards to say that I'm on the tour, just so that, and that will boost things. But I don't think just putting a tweet out sells tickets, really, because I've done plenty of tweets where I've said, "Oh, tonight I'll be here," and it's not really affected sales. So I think it's a far more complex thing going on in order to sell tickets, which none of us really understand, because if we did, then we'd all be millionaires.
We'd all be doing better.
Yeah. I think the main thing that sells tickets is having a really solid, brilliant show. I think that's the main thing, and then people go, God, it's really good, and that's the thing that sells the tickets, not the social media.
Yeah, but I imagine getting to the stage of, so once you've got the show, you need to get the word out. So so obviously going to your core base of people that care and are following enough of you.
Yeah, I'd like to think that it sells more than it does, is I think the issue. I think when you look at 38,000 followers, you'd like to think that every tweet that you put out, then one person will buy a ticket, but I don't think that's actually how it works.
So you've amassed 38,000 followers. Are they useful for your career, or like do you ever like try ideas out there, or?
Yeah, so I'll tweet jokes and they will go out to the followers, and then ones that do well in terms of retweets or sort of response will occasionally end up in the stand-up. So it's a useful training ground for one-liners or ideas that you're not quite sure are funny enough, and then you give them a go. I'm sure you do the same as well with little one-linery ideas. Or maybe not.
Well, it depends. Like, I used to do one-liners as a stand-up. I used to stand there very deadpan, do one-liners.
Yeah.
And I got bored with that.
Yeah.
Especially after like 10-minute sets. You know.
It's tough to keep that going.
Yeah. And I really respect people that can do it, but I just thought this is creatively boring for me. And then all the stuff I'm writing now doesn't work written down.
Right.
Like, even if I put like the lengthy thing on Facebook, people will be like bored from reading it because it's in the delivery rather than...
Yeah.
So usually a line from my set will go out, and it's usually the line that I don't call a punchline but gets a laugh in the set.
Gotcha.
But I do a lot of jokes. I just put a lot of jokes out there just because I want people to think I'm funny and like take an interest in me.
Yeah.
But I don't find it sells tickets. I don't find it brings people down that often.
No.
But then you have to look at the stats, like 38. Say I had 38,000 and I had 100 seats in a theatre. It's on a specific night in a specific town in a specific, like area of the city or whatever.
Yeah.
How many people are going to be free, available, have the spare income, be interested and wanting to go and see comedy on that night?
Yeah.
So you narrow it down and you may be looking at out of 38,000, let's say Manchester again, you might have, oh wait, you're from the Midlands, aren't you?
I'm from Birmingham. Yeah.
Birmingham. So let's say Blackpool, because you will get hometown sellouts and whatever.
Yeah.
So Blackpool, you might have 1,000 followers on there. So then you cut that down to 500 that might be free that night, probably less. And then it keeps getting less and less. And eventually, if you sell 10 tickets, you're like 10 tickets.
Yeah.
God,
it's scary actually when you look at it like that, isn't it?
I have to for my day job.
Yeah. But yeah, that is how you have to look at it from sales as well. You kind of have to think that people really... I'm sort of amazed anyone buys a ticket to sort of see me still, because it's such a leap of faith in me, which I don't necessarily have for myself, but it's wonderful. But it's I don't really know why people buy tickets for things. I'm glad they do, thank God.
Do you get a lot of repeat audiences?
Yes, I think people like to come back and see what I'm up to. I definitely see similar faces in gigs, which is really nice. There's definitely a group of people that are really supportive of comedy, particularly in London, and you'll see them at lots of comedy gigs supporting all sorts of different stand-ups, which is brilliant. So yeah, I do have a repeat contingent.
Do you find the show title is obviously something that people can talk about, like it's already like a hooky type thing. Do you find that stuff like that comes into your marketing plan, or do you just leave that all to management?
Say that question again. Sorry. So
the question was, right, let's ask it a different way. How much does your creativity get impacted by a marketing plan for a show, and how much does it you just do it and then they market it?
Well, the marketing is all done before the show's written normally, or as the show's being written. So the marketing sort of naturally will affect it a little bit, but the show sort of molds around the sort of space that it's given, really. So if the marketing says it's an hour-long stand-up show, then you mold an hour-long stand-up show. So I suppose it does affect it a little bit, but generally the show will kind of... I make sure that the marketing is vague enough to just go, it's an hour stand-up and this is a silly title, and it doesn't really affect what's actually in the show, I think. But it might affect it sort of subconsciously, I don't know.
No,
I'll find out. I'll find out when I've written the show.
Yeah.
And it's all about Casey and the Sunshine Band, and I never realised.
And being blocked by
Fern Britton.
Yeah.
Absolutely livid.
Well, I'm sure she was a big fan before.
Yeah.
So, really quickly going back to TV, you've done some panel shows.
Yes.
Do you get told ahead of time, like, what you're going to be talking about, or is it very off the cuff?
Depends on the panel show. You get a lot of... I've never done Mock the Week, but I gather you get a lot of prep for that. 8 out of 10 Cats you get a bit of prep for. So yeah, they do tell you we're going to be talking about this, but it changes on the day. But they give you a bit of heads up so that you can maybe write some jokes about it, but also just get an idea of what that news story is if you don't know it already and that kind of thing. Then there are other shows like Buzzcocks, which has got very little prep, and Would I Lie to You, which I just recorded, had a kind of like an interview meeting where I sat chatting to a producer for an hour or so, where they kind of learnt about me, but then there was no prep because they couldn't tell me. It's genuinely, when you turn up the card and you have a truth or a lie, you don't know what's going to be on that card until you read it. It depends on the show, but yeah, lots of them do have bits of prep, and you do roughly know which direction you're going to go in, but it fluctuates depending on what happens in the room as well, what other comics do. Lots of people will arrive at the same comedic idea about the same news story, so you have to think around that and try and think what other people won't say.
Yeah, it's kind of strategical writing as well.
Yeah. Strategical, what's the most obvious thing here, and work away from that kind of thing.
Wouldn't it make more sense to go for the most obvious thing if everyone else is moving away from that?
Yeah, it might do. Sometimes it is, actually. Sometimes I think, that's really obvious, but it's got a laugh and somebody's done it. But it's because... so who is it I was talking to about this? Alex Edelman, I was having a conversation with, who was saying, when a news story happens, in the old days, that we didn't have Twitter or whatever, so a comic would go out and the first joke, the most obvious joke, would be perfectly brilliant to do in a live environment. But now with Twitter, everyone's heard the first most obvious comedic response to any news story. They've heard the second, the third, fourth most obvious response. So you, when you go out on stage that night to do a joke, you have to kind of think of the fifth, sixth, seventh most obvious thing, and even more kind of off the wall ideas, because everyone's heard the rest of them on Twitter already before you've even stepped on stage. So it forces us, the nature of Twitter forces us to be more creative and more outside the box, which is only a good thing. But it makes life harder, which is not good for me, because I like a lie down in a bath.
Well, you like writing in the bath. So
I do like writing in the bath,
so
but I would much rather just sit in the bath and watch Spooks.
Oh, nice. Yes. I didn't have you down as a Spooks.
I love old. I cannot wait
Third
for
Rock
the
from the
film.
Sun?
Nah, not that.
I was wondering which avenues you... Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Nah, Spooks.
You got a favourite TV show
other than Spooks? Ooh, 6 Feet Under was a real formative show for me.
Seen it.
Really good. Although I watched it when I was kind of emerging in my late teens, so it probably isn't as good as I think it is. I've definitely put it on a pedestal, but it is a very intelligent insight into human life, I think, if I remember it rightly. But it's been years since I've watched it, but I did love it.
I did that. I watched an episode of Friends recently, and although it was great and it was well written and all that stuff, I remember thinking, I remember this better.
Yeah.
And it's awful, isn't it? Like, there was some shit, Malcolm in the Middle still is evergreen. I still love that show.
Yeah.
But there was some that you watch again and you're like, I was a fucking idiot. I had no sense of humour.
Yeah. No, there are definitely a few like that, aren't there? Yeah. I'm trying to think now what shows. I really love The Sopranos. That's the one everyone loves as well, isn't it? But that doesn't get you rewatch and you go, God, I missed so much in this. That's the effect of The Sopranos. But yeah, the Friends came up on Netflix the other week, and I did start watching that again, and I thought, oh God, it's a bit loud, isn't it? They're all just shouting at each other. But there you go.
Prison Break is one I'm going to throw out there for stuff that I get new every time.
Yeah, I've never watched it, so
you know,
yeah.
The first series is one of the best first series of any program.
Wow. Okay.
Because like normally the first series they're trying to establish stuff and they're trying to work out if people like it or whatever. I felt like when they made this one, they just went, "This is what we've produced. Put it out if you want to." And they didn't edit it, and it was, and because it's like the second series was the same concept. They were getting out of prison. It kind of lost something, even though it was complex enough as the first series. And then by series 4, I was like,
just get out of prison.
Yeah, like frankly, stay in.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Just, I've had enough. Just do your time, mate.
Shoot them.
Shoot. Yeah.
Like,
okay.
The amount of times you've had an opportunity to keep them in, it's clear they're going to get back out.
Yeah, absolute nightmare.
It's like Fast and the Furious 7. Just run them over.
Yeah, yeah. God, there's 7 of them now. Wow, that is That's like porn
and I
films,
can't get
isn't
in
it?
films.
Yeah. 7 Fast and Furious
It's like,
films.
I just got what you said. It's like porn.
Yeah, well, there's always like, Blowjob 25 or whatever.
Oh, I thought you were saying Fast and Furious was a porno. Like Fast and Furious 7. Like that's a weird.
Oh yeah, that is a weird porno. But no, like porn films often have like ridiculous numbers of them, don't they? Sort of.
Yeah.
I say this because I've been doing a bit of research into porn films recently. Research, very important research, which I have to do in private. And it's for a bit of stand-up that I'm developing about a porn actress. And there's an IMDb for porn, which I've discovered, where all of the porn films that people have been in are listed. And it's lots of like Jizz on My Face 32, like just silly names like that,
Yeah, there are some books that like, what was it like there's Inside Number 9 on TV at the moment.
Yes.
Like you think sometimes they might have just started at 28
and
just gone upwards, because no one's going to go, oh, well, I've watched 28, I love that, I better watch the first 27.
Yeah.
Wonder how much jizz she gets on her face in 17.
Yeah. Oh no, the later films have got very derivative.
I've just fucked up the levels, but that was totally worth it. Yeah, totally. It's getting too abstract now, isn't it?
Yes, perhaps.
Do you have a favourite TV show to appear on?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, Live at the Apollo is my favourite TV show to appear on, definitely. Oh, Drunk History was really fun as well, because just got to get drunk. People said, "Did you actually get drunk?" Yeah, I was hungover when I went to bed because we filmed in the day, and I was mullered. And I think they gave me a sambuca, which really pushed me over the edge. But that was a tough old show. That one, trying to stay alert and funny whilst mullered. But I was really impressed with that show. And more people have talked to me about that show than anything else I've done. And I thought when I took it, it's Comedy Central, no one will watch it. And so many people have sort of mentioned it to me. I've seen you on Drunk History, really like Drunk History, and it seemed to be really popular, very on the zeitgeist. So that was a fun one to record. But yeah, Live at the Apollo, because it just felt so just bonkers that I was doing it. That and I felt very prepared because I'd been working on the set for so long that. Yeah, I loved appearing on that. I'd love to do something similar again. Yeah,
I saw you in Drunk History. I was emailing Mark at the British Comedy Guide,
right.
And he sent me a link, and he was like, have you seen this? And I was like, yeah, have you seen that? Like,
yeah,
it's funny. So that was. I'm glad they actually make you get drunk, because otherwise it would have been weirdly poor acting on your part.
No, I'm not. I don't really get drunk. I drink. I can drink a lot, and I get like a bit slurry, but I don't get aggressive or. I just get a bit looser, really, which kind of worked for the show. But they take you to a bar at like midday, and they just buy you whatever you want to drink. And there's like a medic on hand the whole time in case you accidentally die. And I had to do a full medical to check that I could drink, which I could have told them they didn't need to do a medical. But yeah, it was an amazing show to do, because it's just such a bonkers concept, isn't it? Just get drunk. It's great.
Pretty cheap TV.
Yeah, cheap to do. Although I demanded to have fizz, so it's probably more expensive to have me on than anyone else. I think like Romesh just had beers, didn't he? Romesh Ranganathan, and lots of people just did beer. Or I was like, no, fizz.
If I'm going to get drunk,
if you're paying for it, I will have the finest champagne, please.
I had that when I went for a meal with an agent. I'll tell you this. Might edit it out. I went for a meal with an agent, and they told me very early on that they weren't interested in representing me. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then I felt like, I'm just going to order the most expensive thing on the menu then.
Yeah.
Like, they've taken me out for dinner, but they've told me they're not going to represent me.
That's nice.
Yeah, so I just ordered a fucking mass. I just basically went, where is the... I'll have lobster and steak.
Yeah.
I don't even like steak, but let's have it, yeah. And whenever I don't eat, I'll take out and give it to a homeless person. It'd be lovely.
Yeah. Good for you.
It was a lot of fun.
I love it.
Are there any TV shows that you've not been on that you would like to appear on? And why?
Yes. I would like to do QI, because I'd like to meet Stephen Fry. And I'd also like to try some of the American shows. I'd love to sort of try stand-up over there. I did one gig in San Francisco there last year, I was on holiday, but out of interest. And that was really fun. And I feel like it would take a bit of moulding and learning American references, but I reckon I could be okay in front of American audiences. But yeah, I'm not. I'd like to perhaps maybe do Mock the Week, but Not until I'm ready. I don't know necessarily whether I'm ready for what that entails. And the Alan Davies show was quite interesting. I thought the As Yet Untitled is quite a nice idea, where it's just chatting. So yeah, I'm trying to think if there are any others that I'd like to do.
Are there any you've wanted to do and been turned down for?
Well, I presume anything that I've not done, like QI, they've probably approached QI a few times about me and they've said no. I just don't know about it because the agent does it and then just doesn't tell me if they say no. They'll probably approach them quite a lot.
Oh no, I meant like if you'd like gone for like, maybe you'd done like the preview set for the Apollo and they'd gone, I don't think this is right.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything like that I've done. Again, it's the sort of stuff where those sorts of shows, you don't really audition for them. They just book you or they don't, So the answer is yes, but I don't know, if you know what I mean.
So you're 100% sure you've been turned down, but you just don't know who.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Great. Lovely.
Okay. And while we're sticking to favourites, favourite comedians that you enjoy?
Okay, I'm just going to... This is in no particular order. I'm just reeling off people that I can think of that I really like and missing out hundreds of people. Lou Sanders, Julian Dean, Sarah Pascoe, Sarah Kendall, Joe Wilkinson, Russell Brand, Alan Carr, Fiona O'Loughlin from Australia. Is it Fiona O'Loughlin? It's Fiona something. She's brilliant. Louis C.K. Loads of all sorts of different things. I love so many different stand-ups for all sorts of different reasons, really. The one that's really making me laugh is Julian Dean, and it's just, I don't know what it is about him. I just find him absolutely hysterical. I just think he's so naturally funny, and he doesn't really know why he's funny, but he's a brilliant gag writer as well. So there's this like kind of two-pronged attack of brilliant jokes, and then this sort of slightly unknown quantity of natural humour, natural talent for making people laugh. I think he's really, really exciting, and he's doing his first year in Edinburgh. I watched a preview of his show in March, and it was really good then, so I imagine it'll be amazing now. But yeah, lots of people.
And last question.
Mm-hmm.
If you had one bit of advice for a comedian starting out, other than do the competitions because they help and get you a credit and stuff,
yeah,
who want to make like a full-time career, they want to be basically what you're doing, what would you say?
I mean, my advice to people is always just do it. Like, all of the best stuff that's happened to me in my life has just come out of just going, I'll just give that a go, see what happens. And you'll inevitably F it up in some ways, but the only way you can learn and get better at stand-up is just doing it. So just find places to do it. Obviously, the competitions is a great place to start, but just doing any gigs in any pub you can find at the early stages is really valuable. So don't overthink it and just have a go and write as much as you can and jot stuff down. Try and enjoy it. Be yourself, man. But yeah, I mean, it's all the usual cliched advice, and it's cliched because it's correct, really, which is, have a go. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful thing, and I'm very, very glad that I get to do it, as I think I'd be pretty hopeless at most things, so I'm quite glad I get to piss about for a living. Nice.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
That was Joe. I had so much fun geeking out with him about just business stuff. It was so good to talk to a professional comedian who's sort of not done the DIY path, but also has. He's sort of cushioned himself a bit with management and helped himself out, but he sort of, as he admitted, needed that because they're kind of helping him make decisions that he maybe wouldn't have done, like going on a tour on his own back and getting him as a support act on other tours. It was so much fun to talk to him. I really appreciated his time. Thank you very much. If you're listening, Joe, why are you listening to your own podcast? That's a bit odd. And if you do like this podcast, you might also like the one by Louisa Omerlan, who I think it was episode 11 or 10. If you just look back in the archives, it's there. Also, if you subscribe, you can get them all immediately. So do that. Louisa Omerlan did a debut show in 2012, I think it was. And we talk about the detailings of how she made that show the success it is and the success it continues to be 3 years on. It's amazing. I've also got Beck Hill coming on soon. Hopefully that'll be out in July, maybe the end of June. And Aidan Goatley, who was heavily plugged in the previous episode with Jill Edwards about his, quite frankly, amazing show, 10 Films with My Dad. So if you're interested in those, please do subscribe. They're going to be out hopefully before Edinburgh. That's my aim. Next week, we've got Alfie Nooks on, who runs the We Are Funny project in London. He has a really, really interesting and community-led model for his club. And it's something that really resonates with me. As you can probably tell, I'm very community-orientated and I'm very supportive of people who are supportive of other people. So we get into that, and we also get into his future plans for the project and why he calls it a project. It's really interesting. And I really like talking to him. So if you want to hear more about that and you want to learn more about one of the best open mic comedy clubs in London and learn how to maybe run one yourself and make it the success that he has, please do subscribe and you'll get that content straight into the podcast player of your choice. If you have enjoyed this content, please do consider giving me a donation. There are PayPal links on every page almost of my website. And if you can join the patrons, please do. The Patreon website link is Patreon, patreon.com/Ask the Industry Podcast. If you could even give $2 a podcast, there's 3 that come out every month. It means it costs you $6, which I think is about £4, maybe £3.80. And that helps me reach my first target, which is $50 a pod. If I think it's like 10 of you did that, we would reach that first target. And it would only cost you £4. That's like a cup of coffee or a pint or something. So if you could do that, that would be amazing. And it would really bring us closer to the next target, which is $50 a pod. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for sharing. The links are all on the website, as always. And thank you very much for your support. I cannot thank you enough. Honestly, I'm feeling so blessed and lucky. And it's so good. I know this is now getting a bit self-indulgent, but I just want to say, if you have shared any of the links, if you have shared any of the podcasts, if you've come up to me at a gig and you've said thank you for making the podcast, or you've sent me a Facebook message because we've not bumped into each other yet on any walk of life, just thank you. I honestly love this community we're building because it feels so much like I don't feel as alone in this DIY narrative of a career that I'm building for myself, because I feel like I'm not the only one doing it. It's still my career and it's still your career and whatever, but it feels like we're all kind of working together individually. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone who is not a performer who listens to this, but it's a beautiful thing and it just feels great. So thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for listening and for all the shares. Do keep it going. It can't survive without you guys. So thank you so much. I'm going to shut up now. Have a great bank holiday weekend. Bye.